Hi lovelies, karibu sana to my YouTube channel. My name is Glynis. Thank you so much for joining us if you're new here. If you're a returning viewer, asante sana, especially because I had disappeared for a bit. And in today's video, I will be responding to one question that you guys asked in the comment section, where you asked me how to prepare for exams as a first year law student, and that's what we'll be talking about. So without further ado, let's get into it. Before I jump into the video, I just want to wish all of you a happy new year. I am so grateful for the support you gave me last year because we hit 1,000 subscribers and I cannot even thank you guys enough. Thank you because the family is continually growing. Thank you so much for those of you who reach out to me on email, on Instagram, and even in the comment section. And particularly because today we will be responding to Makalimoshi 47's question on how to prepare for exams as a first year, and I have 5 tips for you guys. I hope this will help you, but also please take what works for you, and what you feel won't work for you, please also modify it to suit you best. These are 5 very generic things that helped me while I was preparing for exams in first year, and I acknowledge and recognize in first year when you're in law school, there's a feeling that fine, I've picked the unit that I want to study, or I'm in law school, and there's the excitement of it, but at the same time there's a feeling of I have no idea what I'm doing. And it's very important once you get to law school to hit the ground running. So these tips hopefully will give you some very general ways on how to manage while preparing for your exam, and remember to please customize them to suit your situation. So the first tip, or the first place to start, is get all your course outlines for the units. I've talked about this before. Course outlines are basically an outline of what you study in a certain unit, and a well-prepared course outline will cover everything that the exam is going to cover. So as you start thinking about exams, whether it's your first term exams or your second term exams or your third term exams, you need to have had the course outline from the lecturer. The lecturer usually prepares a course outline and will denote the various places that you'll cover at various points of the term. So in first term, you'll see maybe you have 5 topics to cover, second term 5 more, third term 5 more. So when you have a course outline, it guides you on what to study in a certain unit. In the uneventful circumstance that you do not have a course outline, I would urge you to create a course outline for yourself, which basically means identify the topics that you will be covering, and this usually comes from the lecturer. Once you identify them, identify the various subtopics underneath. Once you know the subtopics, create a way to study them, meaning when you have the course outline, it acts as a guide on how you will study. As the exams are coming up, all those topics and subtopics should be things you've read. That's why I said a course outline is a starting point, because it shows you what you need to know before you get into the exam. The second tip that I'm going to give you guys as you prepare for your exams is create a study schedule, because one, you are thin for time. When exams are coming up, there's this feeling that time is fleeing from you and you have no idea where to start and where to stop. A study schedule is basically a timetable or a time plan that you denote how you're going to study. Now, this is one of the things I've previously talked about in a video, and I will link it up here and down below, where basically I tell you, you can either one, take on the Pomodoro technique, where you study for 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break. Or if you have fine-tuned the art of deep work, then you can study for 2 hours and then take a break for an hour and take another 2 hours. But bear in mind that studying for long periods such as 2 hours is a skill that you perfect over time. So what I would advise is take on the Pomodoro technique, read for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, and that reward system really tricks your mind into doing a lot during a scheduled study session. So what I'm going to say is come up with a study schedule. My study schedule when I was reading for my bar exams was that I would first start with a group discussion in the morning, because I'm not the best person to read in the morning because I love to sleep. I'd rather read late into the night. So I would start my morning with a group discussion for about 2 hours, and then I would go into study sessions of about an hour each. And in the afternoon, when I began studying and feeling a bit lethargic, then I would break them down from an hour study sessions to 30-minute study sessions. So your schedule basically incorporates all the subjects that you need to study for. It incorporates the duration that you will be studying for, and how you will break down this time and what you'll be doing in the time in between, whether you go for a walk, whether you go to the gym, all these things to just make sure you have a productive study session. Coming up with a study schedule is a whole other video on its own, because it really requires you to have a deeper understanding of how to do it. If this is something you're interested in seeing, please comment down below and I will just give you an idea of what I did when I was preparing for the bar exam. Or alternatively, you can go back and watch my previous videos on when I was prepping for the bar exams and see if you can pick up 1 or 2 things in how to prepare your study schedule. The third tip, which is, I will say, an unpopular one, is to take practice exams. Now, one thing about law school is somehow an exam that you do today will be connected to an exam that was done a year before, or 2 years before, or 3 years before. And most law school libraries are equipped to have all past exams. So taking practice exams is a skill that some people prefer to take while others don't. This basically means that you take past papers from the library, make your own copies, and then practice the questions. There are 2 ways to do this. You could practice the questions as you read, meaning you'd take one question and use that as a guideline on studying that topic. Or you could time yourself and take a past paper and do it as if you were in the exam room. Now, again, as I was studying for the bar exams, you guys saw me doing this, where I took a past paper and did it as an exam. Let me tell you why that is important, because for practice exams, you put yourself in the situation of the exam, meaning you don't carry any books as you're doing this exam, and you time yourself. Most exams, if I remember correctly, would take 2 to 3 hours, meaning for 2 to 3 hours, you put yourself in a secluded place, you time yourself as you do your exam, and you take on the exam so that you can be able to identify the areas where you're strong and the areas where you're weak, and go on and revise those papers. An alternative way, which is the first option I had given you guys, is you take past papers and identify questions from various topics. Meaning, if you're doing ADR as a topic, you can take past papers and take on all the questions which ask issues on ADR. And by ADR, I mean alternative dispute resolution if it's an elective you're taking. That helps you to have an idea of how questions in that particular topic are set. And it's important for you to do that because it opens your mind on how examiners frame questions and also teaches you on how you can answer these questions. The fourth tip, which is also unpopular with some people, is study groups. And I know practice questions and study groups are a bit controversial because there are people who prefer to read on their own and they prefer to understand the subject matter as it is without necessarily looking at how previous exams have been set. As I mentioned earlier in this video, study groups have worked for me because study groups have given me the opportunity to work with other people who I believe we have the same level of intellectual interaction, meaning that I would join a study group and we would discuss a topic and I would figure out my blind spots in a topic. Now, I would want to go deeper into a certain topic or an example, but I really don't know what your outline looks like in first year, so I don't want to scare you. But study groups are important because you get to interact with other people as opposed to in class where you're only hearing from a lecturer. So when you hear from other people as well, it helps you realize the blind spots that you may have, maybe pointers that you missed when the lecturer was talking about them, or areas that maybe you had felt at a certain time they were not as important, but now that you're in a group discussion, you realize that it was actually very, very important. It also helps you with understanding a concept that you could be struggling with, because in a group you realize that there's one person who's very good at one thing and another who is strong at a different thing. So you feed off each other's energy. So what a topic that you would have read for 3 or 4 hours trying to grasp it, you can understand it from someone else in about 30 minutes because they understand it very clearly. The final tip I'm going to give you guys, especially in first year as you get into law school and you start with the craze that is studying for exams, please rest. This is something that I have learned to do very late into this profession and I'm still struggling with it, because when you get into law school, the whole mantra is study, study, study some more. And I can tell you one mistake I made in law school is I spent my life for the first and second year in the library, and I would get in there very early and leave very late, and I had not understood the concept of rest, meaning I would really work myself to the bone. So rest, because when you don't rest, it means you do not give your mind an opportunity to process what you've read. And if you don't give it time to process what you've read, then you don't have space the next day to take on some more and to absorb more information. So you find yourself getting to a situation where you have information overload. And because you've not given yourself time to process, then you really don't make much progress later on. You're just reading, but you're not understanding what you're doing. So please, once you've read, make sure you put breaks in between. If the Pomodoro technique is something you're taking on, take 25 minutes to read, take a 5-minute break. If you can study for longer, take a 2-hour session to read, take a break for some time, so that you can be in a position to give your mind time to absorb all that you've read. It is very important to study, don't get me wrong, and don't become those people who read for 30 minutes then take your phone for 3 hours. No, please have the discipline that you need, but please make sure that you rest. I really hope those few tips have helped you as a first year in preparing for your exams. If you need to know anything else, I know there are more questions I've gotten about being in first year and on how to navigate it and basically how to work through what you don't know and what you should know. And I will come up with more videos for that, but I will give you guys a bonus tip. When it comes to exams, please do not wait until the last minute to read. Law school, as I've said before, has so much content that you need to know, and whether you like it or not, what you study in first year will be relevant in third year, what you study in second year will be relevant in fourth year. So cultivate the habit of continually reading. Don't wait until it's 2-3 weeks to exams to start reading. From the minute you get into class, develop a schedule to study, not just for exams but also when you're not having exams. Asanteni sana for watching this video. I am so grateful for all the support that you've been giving me. If this video has been helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend who might need it. And the tips that I've shared here are not just for any people in first year. You could apply them in your second, third, fourth year, even while reading for the bar, because these are some things that you have seen me doing. So it really does cut across. And I hope that this will strengthen your relationship with studying, because it is the primary thing that you do in law school. If you have any more tips, please comment down below. I would be very happy to also hear from you. And if this is helpful, please also comment down below. As usual, don't forget to be kind to one another and also to yourself. And have a beautiful year ahead. Bye.